Mr. Gaurang Shah, Senior Vice President at Geojit Financial Services. Uh, Thank you for joining us here on News9, Gaurang. Now, want to talk about the global markets first. And earlier, good news in the US, at least on the macro front, was being perceived as bad news for equities because it would lead to a spike in the yields, the 10-year Treasury yields. But with the talks of a further rate hike, at least pretty much done and dusted now, it looks like good news is starting to be good news again, isn't it?
Thank you, Suyash, for having me on the show and morning to all of you also. I think rate hike in US has been put to rest by the fact that there have been a pause and the commentary was accommodative or a little bit dovish, whatever you want to call it. And there was also a news flow that Fed might possibly start cutting rates possibly by mid of this calendar year. That is maybe
Hmm.
about June, July 2024. It remains to be seen, wait and watch. But I think more importantly, we have to look at our data points, what our RBI governor has said last week, and of course the recommendations made by the Monetary Policy Committee. Data points in terms of interest rates, inflation, GDP growth rate, and more importantly, the third quarter earnings that we are witnessing for this financial year. Possibly this week will be more or less decisive and curtains down from next week onwards. We will not have much numbers to speak about meaningfully. There will be small here and there companies that may announce numbers. And in fact, last week, Monday, when I was with you on the show, we had mentioned a range in the market that is on the Nifty 22,000, 22,100 on the higher side, 21,700 to 21,600 on the lower side. And I think minus the data points that have been otherwise being seen as a trigger with respect to the domestic and global news flow. Our sense is that that view last week of a range bound market can get extended to this week also. But stock specific news and I think actions will definitely be there.
And Gaurang, oil prices now they have surged, and how? Because I think Brent crude is up around 6% in the last 1 week, back above $80 a barrel mark. Is that a concern? Could that stifle the pre-election rally that everyone is hoping for?
Pre-election rally, I don't know, pre-budget rally, pre-election rally, I don't know how far I would possibly go with that kind of a thought process, Suyas, let's face it. And the sad part is that in our country, throughout the year, you have an election happening in some corner or the other in our country. So I don't read too much into that short-term, medium-term rallies. I look at more durable, long-term rallies and sustainable ones rather than just one-off blips because of some event. And more or less, I think crude oil has always been a very important commodity as far as India and other, crude oil, crude oil consumption nations are concerned. And whenever crude oil has to boil above 85 towards $90 a barrel, our mathematics and calculation goes a little bit haywire. And the fact of the matter is that while you keep one eye on crude oil prices, you have to keep your other eye on the rupee dollar equation as well, because that also impacts the
Hmm.
oil pool account deficit to a greater extent. But I think this crude oil spike that you are seeing is more because of the unfortunate, chaotic activity by Houthi rebels in the Red Sea and a concern in terms of global supply pipeline. But I think our country and our external affairs minister, Mr. Jaishankar, has also spoken to Russia in his last visit very recently to sort out, minus the Red Sea supply side, how we
Hmm.
can get our own energy requirements safely secured and at a reasonable price.
All right, and as we speak, Gaurang, shares of Apeejay Surrendra Park Hotels have made an impressive debut on the bourses. The stock has listed at around 187 rupees, which is a 21% premium over the IPO price of about 155. Now, I mean, Gaurang, the focus is once again back on the hospitality segment, and of course, these stocks are rallying for the past 12 months. What's your opinion on APJ Surindra Park? How is it looking if you stack other hospitality stocks according to valuations?
So I won't comment on this one because there is no coverage, Suyash, but I'll let me comment on the sector, and I think the sector is looking quite promising.
Hmm.
Whether it is to do with Atiti Deva Bhava or enhancing the prospects of India being a preferred destination in terms of foreign travelers coming into our country. Footfalls are going to go up. Domestic travel, leisure travel, as we call it domestically, is also picking up steam. Binge travel is something that we have witnessed post the restrictions getting lifted off. And of course, the numbers, if in terms of the occupancy in a flight, if you go to see, I was flying to Kolkata about a week back, and I saw the rush not only on Mumbai airport but also in Calcutta airport while I was returning back to Mumbai. So I don't think there is any kind of dearth or any kind of lower level in terms of travel activity. I think both business as well as leisure travel is picking up, and I think that should keep the cash registers of the hospitality sector, that is hotel sector, ringing. Not to forget, Suyash, realizations per rent has improved, occupancy in terms of percentage has improved. From COVID levels to current date, we've seen an increase of almost about 15% in terms of tariffs. Commentary from the management of various uh, companies with respect to Indian hotels or likes of Lemon Tree or Taj GVK or EIH hotels. These are not recommendations. My recommendation will be restricted to Indian hotels because that's where we have a coverage on the fundamental side. But from current date, in the next maybe about 1.5, 2 years, you're going to see another 15 to 20% hike. This is only in the room tariff. You add to it the food and beverages and possibly festive season, marriage season, wherein your banquets get booked for maybe about a couple of months together. I think that's the added revenue. So we remain positive on the hospitality sector.
Good morning, Gaurang. Keeping on the hospitality sector, you said cash registers will be ringing in the times to come. Do you see more companies and newer companies coming up with their IPOs in this sector? And do you see market capitalization in the hospitality going up the way the rally is going in the markets, in the
I
same
think
trajectory?
they should, honestly speaking, they should, because the number of large defined players in this particular sector is very limited. There are a lot of mid and large, lot of small and lot of micro cap names associated with this sector. So as the opportunities pick up, and mind you, I forgot to mention in the earlier answer to the question that Suyash had asked me, there are a lot of new launches lined up from large names, be it Indian hotels, be it Lemon Tree, be it EIH, be it Taj GVK. I think quite an interesting number of properties, and even events like the in Ayodhya, Ram Mandir Pran Pratishtha, and pilgrimage spots getting identified as a big opportunity for these hotel industries. I was watching an interview of ITC hotels where Ginger and Vivanta are planning to open up more hotels in a lot of part of the country. So opportunities will be there, and I think you should see some interesting names come out with an IPO to hit the street. But yeah, a lot depends what that name is and what valuation are the IPO price.
All right, and moving on, we are in the midst of the earnings season, the December quarter earnings season. In fact, we are drawing curtains to it this week, and Coal India comes out with its results today. Gaurang, I'll come to you in just a bit. Amit, what is the street expecting?
Very, very muted growth in revenues. In fact, net profits are practically expected to remain exactly the same. A growth of only 0.3% is expected in net profits. About a growth of about 1.4% is expected in revenues. EBITDA's margins also expected to go down. Now, when I look at Coal India, in the last 5 days and even today, the stock has gone down almost 5%. But for a stock that has given returns of over 100% in the last 1 year, is it a correction time or is there something else happening?
And Gaurang, to add to that, we saw quite a bit of profit taking in the PSU stocks generally on Friday. The index overall, the BSE PSU index overall was down about 2 to 3% on Friday. What's your overall take on the PSU stocks and Coal India?
Well, so nothing goes up in terms of infinity, whatever, whether it is private or public. There has to be a full stop, Suyash, Amit, when it comes to run up. Not to forget, nobody was complaining when these stocks were going up for the last maybe about week or fortnight, correct me if I'm wrong. And profit booking has to be seen as an healthy opportunity. You cannot expect any stock associated with any sector, whether public or private, to go up indefinitely. I think there is valuation, there is sanity level that has to come in. And I was surprised to see the kind of reaction on the social media, Suyash. after the Honorable Prime Minister just made a passing reference in terms of comparison of his government 10-year working with respect to profitability of PSU companies and the earlier government 10-year working with. He was just making a reference with a company called LIC, and I think the social media was on fire. For the love of God, he is the Prime Minister of the country. He is not the Prime Minister of the stock market, nor is he a fund manager. His business is not to give recommendations. I don't know why people are misinterpreting these kind of statements. I think one has to just be a little bit sanity. But having said that, I think Coal India, just to answer your question, we have a coverage. This stock has also run up. It took a pretty long period of time of hibernation for Coal India to do the kind of performance that it has done. I think at current valuation, you should see a little bit of breather profit booking. Numbers are going to be out today. I would not want to make any kind of forward-looking statements. But I think any company, any sector, whether public or private, you are going to see a pause after a run-up in terms of profit booking.
All right. I mean, of course, there are intermittent hurdles on the way up, but the overall view is still positive, is it?
Well, I have always been a perennial, optimistic guy, Suyash. I don't see any reason. We have seen 22,126 as the highest point in terms of Nifty spot. And where are we from those levels? Are we down 20%? No, bro. I mean, we are down just a couple of percentage or maybe 0.0 something. So, at higher levels, you will get higher point-wise correction, but you have to look at it in terms of percentage of the base that you are working at. So I have no possible negative view in terms of our markets. It's always good to see a brief period of consolidation.
Always good to see a brief period of consolidation. That's a word from Mr. Gaurang Shah. Sir, always a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you for joining us here on First Take.
Thank you.